the first thing that the label told me, which was weird to me, was like, we don't really want you to go viral right now. I went on American Idol, I got the golden ticket thing, but left immediately because...
Do you think you made the right decision?
Before that, I was studying aerospace engineering in college and was interning at a grueling internship at SpaceX. Should I be making eye contact with them? The only thing you're thinking about is how can I go viral, because I want people to hear my music. And at the core of everything, I am an attention whore. Now I'm figuring out slowly and unlearning the trauma that comes from wanting to only go viral. My manager has no idea what I'm doing right now. It's like, wow, the internet is so fucking big.
So big.
Yeah.
And also just like so small at the same time. Like,
right. The fact that I get
life,
recognized whenever or a lot of the time when I'm in public or leave the house, like blows my mind. I'm like, there's so many people out there. I don't understand how you're coming up to me right now, but very weird. My manager has no idea what I'm doing right now.
Oh, really?
And I just sent a video of me in here like, where the fuck am I? It's so official. I feel like I'm back on I did American Idol for a second and then dropped out of it.
Oh, no way.
And it felt somewhat similar.
Right, start us off, tell us who you are, what you do.
I am Haiden and I'm a musician.
How would you describe your music to a first-time listener?
Should I be making eye contact with them?
Whatever's more natural for you.
What is more natural?
Switch.
If I land a punchline, I'm looking right at you, and then I'll talk to you otherwise. Okay, how would I describe my music? I would say it's pop music.
Pop music?
Yeah, I would say it's pop. In the same way that I like that Alex Turner from Arctic Monkeys says that he just makes pop music.
Yep.
And I'm like, yeah, it's kind of all encompassing like that.
I love that. Will you tell us your origin story, like how you got into music and then what brought you to like where you are now?
It's meandering and long and kind of confusing. I haven't done music for very long. It's been a very new discovery. I started writing songs and playing guitar during the pandemic. Okay. And then before that, I was studying aerospace engineering in college and was interning at a grueling internship at SpaceX and wasn't super happy, was pretty bored with all of that stuff. But I felt like I needed to do it because on paper it sounded really impressive, and at the core of everything, I am an attention whore and just want people to like look at me in some capacity. And yeah, I think the phrase, it's not rocket science, really got to me as a kid. I was like, what if it was though? And that's what I sort of based my life around.
Hell yeah.
So I started playing guitar my first year of college, and I lived in my car for that first year because I couldn't afford to move to LA yet. And I deferred from my first year at university to do community college and started playing guitar as a hobby. And then I started skipping more and more class because playing guitar was way more fun. And then I moved to LA, started playing as a guitarist for other people here and there. I had some medical issues come up. I had some surgeries as a kid on my hands because I was born with something called trigger finger, which is like a form of arthritis or tendonitis that's usually seen in elderly people, 80 or 90 years old. And I couldn't open my hands for the first few years, and so I have scars on my inner hands because they had to like go in and carve up my hands essentially so that I could open them.
Wow.
And then when I started playing guitar heavily, it came back. So I would wake up in the mornings and I like wouldn't be able to move my hands. And so I'd have to soak them in ice and slowly sort of pry them open. Wow. And you can feel like all the tendons through your arm, like slowly pull through your arm. It's a very weird, visceral experience. And I went to the doctor, and they said I wouldn't be able to use my hands anymore if I kept playing. So I started writing as a result of that. And now I play guitar, but I have to do it sort of in doses. Otherwise, I'll start feeling them tighten up again.
Wow, it's
very weird.
I had no idea. That's really...
Yeah, it's a story I should maybe tell on the internet at some point.
Definitely.
I haven't done that yet. Yeah.
And another part of your story that you just briefly mentioned before we started was that you were a part of American Idol at some point.
Yeah, that was actually really recent. So I had already harnessed a small audience. This was actually really recent. It was like December of last year that I went on Idol. It was right before I went on tour. I opened for a musician who coincidentally was on American Idol in 2019, and he went super viral. I like to think that he made American Idol cool again. And I was opening for him on tour, and right before that tour, I went on American Idol. I got the golden ticket thing, but left immediately because I wanted to go on tour with this musician instead.
Okay.
And they gave me a lot of screen time, which I felt really bad about. They would have me like interview the other contestants and stuff because I think I have like a modeling background and moved around a lot as a kid, so I usually ask a lot of questions from a lot of people to try to get to know them really quickly, and they liked that, so they put me on camera a lot, and then when I was like, I'm not coming back, they were rightfully so pretty upset.
Yeah. Do you think you made the right decision in doing that?
Yeah, I think American Idol is good for someone that is not like me. If you already have something going on, like you already have a fan base, or at that point I was living off of music already, I think it's almost a waste to give that opportunity to somebody like me. All the people that were there were like huge fans of the show. When Ryan Seacrest walked into the room, like moms were like, oh my God, he's here. And I didn't know who Ryan Seacrest was. And so I was like I didn't have cable growing up, so I just didn't watch the show. And honestly, in those moments, I was like, I should not be here. Like I did not earn this opportunity because I am not a big enough fan of what's going on. So I felt like even for just that reason, I wouldn't have used it to its fullest potential.
Right. And in like the era we live in today, I feel like it's super important as an artist or even as a creator to like build your own platform.
100%.
And be able to rely on that rather than relying on someone else's platform.
The hard part about being successful without the control over it is, like you're saying, you can't do anything with that. Like certain people that I know have music that was successful because it was streamed really well on Spotify, and algorithmically through Spotify, a lot of people listen to their music. But then when they go to announce a release, like nobody's there to look at it. Similarly, I think that virality can have a similar effect. Like if you get a lot of your followers from virality, this is a bit heady for the average person, but if you get all of your followers from a viral video, people will follow you because of that video, but not necessarily follow you because they like you as a person. And so it's this, when you're an indie musician, the only thing you're thinking about is how can I go viral because I want people to hear my music. And when you do that, you start sacrificing things. Like people don't know that I've had hand problems and stuff, and that I started music because of that, just because like that's not necessarily something that would get like 1 million views in a day. But it's a part of me as a person. So now I'm figuring out slowly and unlearning the trauma that comes from wanting to only go viral, basically.
And I think that's important too, to build like a brand and build yourself over time rather than the viral moment, because I'm a big believer in like how artists come is how artists go, you know, right? Like if an artist puts in 10 years time, the perfect example is like Russ, in my opinion. He puts in 10 years.
An anomaly. That guy's crazy.
Right? Yeah. He put in so much work on the front end, and then he has his moment, and he has built like a fan base that will stick with him for however long he wants to keep.
Same with The Weeknd.
Same with The Weeknd and a lot of other artists, and I think that's super important to like. There's a balance to it, right? You want to like find viral moments, but you also don't want to be pigeonholed, and you want to make things about your music, and so I think you do a great job of balancing that.
Yeah, I just now I will be announcing it this week. I'm assuming that this would be out after this week. I just signed a record deal, and the first thing that the label told me, which was weird to me, was like, we don't really want you to go viral right now, because if you go viral without people knowing and like more about you, it's fleeting. People don't, they're there for the moment, they're not there for you as an artist. So like, we want you to try to unlearn that. And I feel like a dog that was beat by its previous owner in a way, because I'm just like, are you sure I don't have to go viral right now? So I'm trying to like just be quirky or be myself on the internet, introduce my friends on my page, like just do little things like that and try to treat it more like a person. And it'll be a slow process, basically.
Yeah, I think a lot of people, from like 2019 till now, there was like the TikTokification of social media and everything, and short form video is like such an emphasis. And I feel a lot of things come back in cycles, right? And I feel like in 2015 to 2017, there was like this era of like YouTube and long form content that people really bought into. And I feel like that's coming back a little bit. I think people are somewhat tired of like the fleeting, you know, what's the word for it?
I think it's like the fleeting serotonin of just like the short form or short term gratification of like,
Right.
this feels good instantly and it's gone in a second.
Right,
Yeah.
and I think people are craving to like get to know people through both artists and creators through long form content and more in depth. And like with TikTok and short form algorithms, you know, you're kind of subjective to the For You page or to the algorithm, and you're kind of creating for that in a way. And when you kind of shift your focus to just building you as a person and showcasing you as a brand and who you are in a slower process and over time, I feel like more and more people will continue to like come back to you. Like if like, you start putting out content on YouTube, like people subscribe and they go back to their subscriptions, and I think that says more than just having a viral video for sure.
Yeah, it's an interesting. I think it's an interesting balance, because we live in a world where we all expect our lives to change overnight, and even if you have the biggest video on the planet, or I mean, it's really only when you have the biggest video on the planet that still happens.
Right.
But there's such saturation now. There's a million of me out there, and I try to keep in the back of my head that they're working harder than me and doing exactly what I'm doing, only better. And so there's a balance where it's like, when you do get that flood of audience and stuff, make sure you're surrounding it with personal moments so that those new people are learning about you. And if they like you, then great, they'll stay. If they don't like you, then they only followed you for the video, which is what would have happened anyways if you didn't tell them about you. But the catch-22 is, by the time you get your first viral moment, you were likely trying for that viral moment, or by the time you've gone viral consistently, you've been doing it for so long that when you get something like that, a big moment, the next thought is not, oh, how can I like tell them about myself? Now it's, how do I keep this up?
Right.
Everybody's looking at me now. How do I not drop the ball? The reality is you always drop the ball. It's just the way that the world works. But it's a tough balance, especially for like a 20-year-old to figure out on the internet.
Definitely.
You know, because they don't even know who they are yet.
You
know, on top of everything.
When you think about it,
totally.
Just trying to figure it out, and like also at the same time turn it into a business in a way, because
for sure.
I'm sure like you want like music to be.
Yeah.
You know what, and it might be already what you do like all
right.
the time.
Yeah.
Thinking like when you're so young and having to turn what you love and your passion into a business and trying to not crash out on that can be difficult too. I
had a good talk with some of my close friends. I love surrounding myself with people that give hard truths, because I'm not the kind of, I prefer a coach over a therapist a lot of the time. Like I want someone to smack me in the face and be like, this is what you need to do to get out of your current head state, instead of like coddle me, which is just, it's so boy of me to not want to deal with my emotions. But one of my friends said to me recently that when they met me, I was this like borderline sociopathic and enigma like person, where I was just so driven, like I didn't do anything. It was right after me living in my car and so focused on my goals, because I just couldn't pay rent the next month, or I like didn't have the food that I needed, or I had that fire under me to work super hard. And since then, now that music has been able to sustain me for a while, I'm having to tweak my motivations. Like I'm not doing this because I need to survive. I'm doing this because it makes me happy, or because I've built this fan base that I want to continue to connect with. It's like swapping those motivations is a very interesting thing as well, which is also just something that I don't think the average 20-year-old goes through until later in life. It's weird.
And it's also like you're almost coming out of like a fight or flight mindset, right?
Absolutely.
More so you're stepping into a world of like abundance and not scarcity of trying to like.
Yeah. And I'm in right now currently in the mindset of like, I just want to go back in my hole and work really hard for a little bit and come up every once in a while. Because I think also when people start knowing who you are, you get this not false sense of importance, but the idea that it's like, oh, I did it. It's like, you haven't done anything yet. It takes 10 years and then some for anybody for you to make any real difference in this world in general. So now I'm back to like the confidence and arrogance as if everybody knows who I am, just so that I keep motivated and don't hate what I'm doing, but also the awareness that like I've got a lot of work to do and a lot to discover about myself and what I do before I'm done.
Yeah, and when I discovered your music, what drew me in was your lyrics. It felt like you were literally taking thoughts from my mind and like just putting them into lyrics and slapping a melody with it, and I was just
funny.
like, holy crap, like, and it was with almost every song when I went back into your discography.
Interesting.
Like, I could literally go through your discography and point out each song and be like, okay, this reminds me of this situation, and this reminds me of this. And so I really love that.
What was the song? The first song that was it You Don't Even Like Me?
It was Pretty Little Addict.
Pretty Little Addict.
First,
okay, cool.
And then You Don't Even Like Me next. And
cool.
then after that, I was like, yeah, I'm bought in. Like, I'm gonna go.
That's funny.
Dive into it.
This EP, this upcoming project, which I'm also, well, I guess I'm not announcing the project. Maybe I did here on accident. Upcoming project that I've had for a while was meant to, I guess, deepen the well a little bit. I think my first project was like, I can be catchy, I can do a perfect like pop vocal, and I can basically just get your attention. And I felt like that was me getting my foot in the door, and I say this all the time, but I wanted to, with this project, pull the rest of my body through, essentially, and show people different sides of me. It was like not just the person that is so confident and can look at other people and be like, you're wrong, you're wrong, you're wrong, I'm right. Because that's not at all what I'm like. My favorite type of people in my life are, okay, am I allowed to curse?
Yeah.
Yes. I curse a lot. I curse so much.
I do too.
My favorite type of people in my life are people that are assholes, but they are equally assholes to themselves as well. Like people that have a very kind of even view on the world where they're as aware of other people as they are of themselves. Yeah. And I very much so am like that. If I judge a person, I know that I'm judging myself harder. And there's not really anything anybody could say to me that I don't already say to myself to keep myself going. And so that side of me is coming out in these songs a little bit more. Like You Don't Even Like Me and Pretty Little Addict is the one song that I allowed myself to like be angry again, but there's not another song on this project that is badgering another person or saying that another person's wrong. Most of it is actually me saying that I'm wrong about a lot of stuff. It's weird.
Yeah, when you start to write a song, like, can you go into like the process of what goes into the inspiration that you draw from when you sit down and write a song?
I feel like because there's a mic on my throat, you can like hear me swallowing. Is that
Honestly, I don't
Maybe.
know, but I'm chewing gum, so it's like probably the same.
I gave Courtney gum before this. Okay. The process of writing a song. I hate whenever someone asks an artist this in interviews. No. And no, I hate when the artist is like, it's different every time. I was like, everyone says that. I don't want to say that. No, I love the question.
Okay.
That would be funny if I was like, I fucking hate this question. Like,
I hate this question.
I would never say that. The process of writing a song, lately for me, it's been title motivated for some reason. I think it probably speaks to my astrology, but I love just words and wordplay and how you can use words to evoke different things. And I think of it like a puzzle a lot of the time. And so whenever there's a title that grabs my attention or makes me think of something, I like to build the story backwards from there. So Killed the Kid, which is the next single that I'm dropping, started as a title just through a conversation I was having through a friend. And then probably a month later, I was going through, there was like more and more distance coming between me and a person that I was very much so into and cared about romantically. And that distance became more and more frustrating because I had no control over it. And I just knew it was because they didn't feel the same, and that's totally justified. But I thought of Killed the Kid in my head again, and I was like, God, I wish I could just kill the kid inside of me, because that kid is the one that is the hopeless romantic, the one that doesn't have control over these things, the one that is innocent and trusts people way too much. And so I wrote the song based off of the kind of chemical equation between the original title and then the feeling that I was feeling at the time. And that happens a lot for me. I think Pretty Little Addict was slightly different. It was me sitting down with a friend, and I had written so many sad songs about this relationship that I had. And I knew the difference for the greater project was for me to not talk about the relationship as much by itself, but use that relationship as a vehicle to talk about myself, just to like evolve a little bit as an artist. And Pretty Little Addict was the one time that I sat down and he was like, I played him a few songs and he was like, these are all so sad. And like, I get that you hate yourself through all these songs, let's do like one that's a little different. Like, let's not hate yourself in this. It's okay for you to be upset at this person. Like, they did their things, blah, blah, blah. And so that was sitting down and trading lines back and forth. And I just went into that being like, I just feel used by this person. I feel like they used me for my kindness and my empathy and my my compassion as a person. And I thought, what's another thing that gets used? Drugs get used a lot. And my bio dad and like 80% of my family is all addicts and stuff, so I have a lot of experience with specifically addiction to narcotics. And so I was just honestly like combining a lot of things, my childhood and my experience with addiction, and then the ways that I felt as though this person had emotionally used me. And it became essentially a list of reasons why I am the drug that is being used.
I love that. I love the comparison there between.
I was so worried that it was going to be divisive, but I was like, I've been a victim of addiction in a different way for so many years. I was in court-ordered like psychiatric care and therapy because of a lot of stuff growing up. I was like, if anyone can talk about this from this perspective, I'm hoping that it's me through this. And so I went out posting this stuff like ready, like with my fists up. I'm like, okay, I'm ready to defend myself. Here we go. Not a single person ever questioned it, and the people that supported it the most were actually addicts of different types. And the line, you've got commitment issues, but you're covered in tattoos. I was like, oh God, am I alienating like my favorite fan base, which is like the girls with dyed hair and tattoos all over the place? And they were the champions of it. They loved it. And I was like, oh, thank God.
Yeah, I feel
I was so worried.
I feel like a lot more people can relate to the story that you're telling than
that is usually, and you saying that I pull words from your brain is crazy, because I'm really only pulling words from mine, it feels like, most of the time.
Yeah, it's amazing that you're able to like take those thoughts and put it out in a relatable way.
Right.
So I think that's a big difference between like an amazing songwriter and an artist who is like putting stuff out but can't seem to connect with their fans quite yet. I think you've really like figured out a way to turn your situations into relatable stories and put them out there, and thank you for that, because that shit helps you get through some stuff.
Wow. I mean, you're so welcome, and thank you. I like to think of it like when you go on Twitter, now X, it's always going to be Twitter, always Twitter. But when you go on there and you read a tweet that is like something that you could have swore was something you only experienced. Like, you're up at 3 a.m., you're making a grilled cheese, you're wearing just like your underwear or some sweatpants, and it's like the most embarrassing, crippling feeling ever. And then someone tweets about them doing it, you're like, oh God, we're all the same. Like, every human is borderline the same person.
There's no such thing as unique experience.
Not at all. It's unbelievable. So that gives me a sense of confidence, knowing that there are plenty of songs to be written and plenty of experiences that I could put in a first verse, and people are gonna be like, oh, how does he know about that? Like, what the fuck? Very weird.
Well, you mentioned earlier, before you started making music, you had an internship with SpaceX and you were getting into rocket science, for lack of a better term. What would you be doing if you weren't making music?
Probably that, unfortunately. The technical terminology was aerospace engineering, and it was a weird almost fever dream. I feel like I was smart enough in school to get by without a lot of effort, and so I like to think of myself being a very bad engineer but a good bullshitter, and I think also being a good bullshitter lends itself to being an artist or an entrepreneur of any kind. It's like being able to convince people that what you're doing is important. So I would probably be doing that. It would have been the more responsible thing for me to do with my student loans and everything else.
Responsibility, yeah.
That's
We're all here
100%. We're all here to have fun and disappoint our parents in some way.
Aren't we all here for that? Yes. What makes you the most curious that your fans might be surprised to hear? What makes you curious?
Interesting. If you are listening to a certain type of my music, you would be probably surprised to know that I'm not nearly as confident as my lyrics make me come across. And like, Sorry to Your Next Ex, and Pretty Little Addict, and Dump Him, and there's probably a few others. I write confident sounding things to sort of cosplay as that character in a way. Like, Sorry to Your Next Ex, I wrote for a class in school because we were supposed to write a song for another artist, and I was like, what would Rihanna say? I was like, like, she's got more confidence than any other artist I can possibly imagine. I'm sure, though, if we talked to her, she would say the complete opposite. Yeah, so I was writing from that perspective, and Pretty Little Addict was like, what would I say about this person if I had no emotions at all? Like, what is like the most cutting and honest truth that I can think of? So that's usually not how I feel. It's like a 2% part of my personality that I blow up to 150% for the song's sake. What else? Something. The surgery thing, probably. I can usually do a standing backflip, which is a weird thing.
That's pretty cool.
I'm usually taller in real life than most people anticipate.
I will say, yeah, I
Yeah.
was anticipating you to be this tall.
I was at a show the other night for a Peter McPullen show, which was fantastic, and a fan came up to me and was like, oh my gosh, oh my gosh. Like, it's always a very interesting thing to watch that happen. As someone that meets people from the internet in real life quite often, usually in real life, especially people that are like so attractive on the internet, are usually not human looking in real life. Like, there's a type of attractiveness that is good for the internet and only good for the internet. Like, when it is two-dimensional and flat, this person's gorgeous, but then you meet them in person, you're like, you're kind of funky looking. Like, you're kind of weird. I would also put myself in that category for the modeling background. Well, I got signed to a modeling agency out of high school. And I like to think that it was because I was tall and like sort of weird looking. I have like big lips and kind of big eyes and just like funky
hair,
proportions.
blue eyes.
Yeah. I had like a whole thing. They had me cut my hair super short, dye it platinum blonde. It was a weird time.
At what point did you like switch from blonde to? Because you were already making music when you still had the blonde hair, yeah?
Yeah, I'm naturally blonde, and
okay.
I would say naturally my hair is probably about your color. Is this natural for you?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's usually about that. When I was younger, it was like white. My mom had very, very kind of platinum hair naturally. And then my hair is usually very reactive to sunlight. So if I'm in the sun for a long time, it'll go like really blonde. And it gets dirtier the more reclusive I become. And I just felt like as a musician, I'm naturally reclusive. So I either need to dye it to what I actually would look like if I was out in the sun being a normal person, which is a much more bright, or commit and like go brunette. And I naturally have like a kind of strawberry redness to my hair that comes out occasionally. I have to like torture my hair to get the red out of it. It's unbelievable. People were comparing me like Ron Weasley for the first week that I had brunette hair because we didn't like extract the red enough. I was like, fuck, that's not what I wanted. Damn it. Yeah.
Will you give me a hot take? Like, it can be something random, but just something you stand 10 toes down on.
Oh, I'm such an asshole. I have a lot of those. Okay. Let me scroll through the Rolodex in my head.
Yeah.
I wanted to write a song called Hot Take. So I was like, I'm such an asshole. Like, I've got so many hot takes I could have, especially on a person. Unpopular opinion. I'll start with one in the music industry.
Okay.
I think when you're an artist and you make a thing that is really popular, it's your natural inclination to want to run away from it. For Sorry to Your Next Ex, like, I wanted to run away from that sound because I wanted to be like a real artist, and I didn't want to be boxed into that. I think you have to earn the right to do that with the public, though. Like, you need to have a sound before you can run away from the sound, and I don't think one song does that. But there's this kind of dysmorphia that happens when you're in the music industry and you think, oh my God, everybody knows me for this one song. It is my sound. But to the general public, which is really who matters, like, trying to impress the industry is bullshit. It makes no sense. To the general public, they only know this one song by you, and you have one thing. Like, I feel as though I have albums worth of music out. I have one EP out and like 2 other singles, basically. And so I'm excited to just put out a shit ton of music for that reason and hammer in what I think is my sound over and over again, which is sort of what this EP is, but I had this realization actually pretty recently. So the stuff coming after this EP is exactly that mission state in my opinion. It's the Haiden sound.
I 100% agree with what you just said, because I feel a lot of artists like you said, they don't want to be put into a box on a sound, but I think there's a sense of like you got to develop a trust with your audience.
100%.
Do that, and like you're not just gonna switch up on them, and like that's what they came here for. You know?
100%.
Like, if they found you on that song, they're like looking for more of that and more of that, and I think that's how you really like build trust with the audience.
Yeah, it's almost a respect thing when you're just like, I respect my audience's taste and that what they like is actually good, as opposed to being like, I need to be smarter than my audience and I need to hit them with a left hook that they're not seeing coming, and honestly, one, that's exhausting to like constantly try to outsmart the world, and I try to do that so often that I'm well versed in it, and two, it's you find almost detrimental to an artist's career. But I call it like the circle. It's a very circular thing to be like, you start at this point, everyone knows you for this point, and then you do this entire thing of running around and freaking the fuck out, and then eventually, if you're a successful artist, you usually end up back at where you started. Yeah, and so I'm hoping to have expedited that process, and I'm re-entering the space that I started in, because I think it's just something I did naturally well when I wasn't thinking about it too much, you know.
Definitely. I think I already know the answer to this next question, but I'm gonna ask it anyways.
Yeah.
Team Edward or Team Jacob?
Team Edward. My best friend told me that I look like, that I should just be a vampire, like that should be my look. And I was like, I don't look like a vampire. And then she was like, go look in the mirror one more time and think about Edward Cullen. I'm pasty pale. I have dark hair now, especially now that I have dark hair. My eyes are naturally like a little bit red because I have allergies. And so I just look like, and then I usually look like I'm in pain, and I have like a resting pain face, just like really.
I've never heard that before. I've heard resting bitch face.
Yeah. No, that's definitely me. And when you watch Twilight, you realize Edward's like that too. Anytime he kisses Bella, it's like physically painful for him. And I watched enough interviews, because I'm a super fan, for him to be like, yeah, it's because he just wants to eat her so bad that in order to kiss her, it's like painful for him. I was like, okay, whatever. You just look stupid in my head. So Team Edward, I have to be. Also, Jacob's like such a douche.
Yeah.
He's like sweet in the beginning, but then he imprints on a kid, and he like forcefully kisses Bella, and she breaks her hand on his face. You know, we forget about these things.
Yeah, we do.
You can't be Team Edward, or you can't be Team Jacob. Yeah, it's because he has abs.
Yeah. So
but he was also like 17 when he filmed that.
Interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah, it makes you really rethink the like soccer mom culture that was really Team Jacob.
Definitely.
In those years.
Yeah.
He was still Shark Boy at that time. He wasn't Shark Man yet.
No.
Not at all.
That's really funny. And then to wrap it up, I've been asking everyone to put me on to new music in a minute. So you can't look at your Spotify live.
Oh, you're such an asshole.
You can't look at any music library on your phone. Off the top, I'm gonna put a timer on you. You got 60 seconds.
Okay. I'm going to say anything Ben Howard I'm a huge fan of. Specifically the album where it's a black and white cover. It's like a portrait of his face. I don't know the name of the album though. I just listen to it on repeat. I loop it. He's a very peculiar but really, really talented songwriter. Sam Fender's Hypersonic Missiles is an album that I always come back to. Really fantastic. I found it when I first started writing songs, and it made me write completely differently, and it was bad when I did it, but it's great when he does it. I've been listening to Madison Cunningham. I also forget the name of her first record, but I think it got her nominated for a Grammy, and she is like one of the most talented guitar players on the planet, in my opinion. She's so fucking good, and her voice is like a mix between Joni Mitchell and maybe like Fleetwood Mac style instrumentation. She's so dope. One of the Boys, Katy Perry, one of the most perfect pop records, in my opinion. It's her first, I think, debut album, and my record label, like the guy who founded my record label is the one who like scouted her and did that entire record, which is I Kissed a Girl and Hot and Cold. Like all of those are unbelievable. I did it.
There we go. And will you tell us what's next for Haiden and where they can find your music?
You can find my music anywhere. It's spelled Haiden. Apologies for the confusion. My mom wanted me plagued with mispronunciations my whole life. Siri calls me Haiden. Not cool. What's next for me? it's that circle. I think I'm just going to be returning back to the thing that I've always done well, which is I think I'm good at being a one-man boy band, and that is the inspiration for everything to follow this EP. And this EP for now, I consider to be very foundational. You'll learn a lot about me, and hopefully I will pull some words out of your head in the process. But I'm very excited for the future. New record deal, new music, and I'm going to be dropping a lot of stuff in 2024.
I can't wait.
Yeah, it'll be good. I want to drop as much as possible.
Hell yeah.
It'll be good.
Thank you so much for doing this. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
It was great.